Okay, today we're looking at new beginnings. We're coming into 2020 here real soon. We were just talking this morning about that. It's just hard to believe that 2020. Do you remember when the year 2000 hit? There were a lot of people freaked out about that because they thought the computer thing was going to get all messed up and that our banks were going to shut down and all kinds of things were going to happen. Horrible things were going to happen. And then we also had to survive 2012, which was the Mayan calendar. People interpreted as world was going to end, I guess, something like that. So now we're 2020. All we have to worry about is the presidential election. That's not, I'm sure we'll survive that as well. But the whole idea of a new beginning, it's a good thing to, I've said many times that every holiday that we have, it contains some spiritual principle. And as I've gotten older, going through the years, I have focused more on the principle than I have on the holiday, what it means, what the principle is. And what we celebrate with the new year is it's the principle of the now. When you really think about it, we're entering a new calendar year, but have you ever been able to step out of the now moment? I think I've asked that question before, but how many of you have succeeded in leaving the now, stepping out of the now? Now, I know you've been able to think about the future, and you've certainly been able to think about the past. But what it does, what it helps us do is think about what is this thing we call time? Because we're saying here another year has passed. When you look at yourself in the mirror, do you see two people? You see the one that's reflected back in the mirror, and then you see the one that's doing the looking, the one that's never changed, the one that doesn't feel a day older, but the one in the mirror is a little bit more wrinkled, maybe a little heavier, maybe a little grayer. I was born with gray hair, by the way. This is not due to age. We see a changing body, but isn't there a part of us that feels like this has always been me, that I feel ageless in this regard? You know, we can't even imagine that, our kids, both of our kids are in their 40s now. I should be in my 40s. You know, they're in their 40s. So, but there's a part of me, and that it's the part of me that looks at that and says, how can that be? That's the soul. It's ageless. So there's two things going on, and we can buy into either one of them. And so we celebrate a new year, and it's all about letting go of the old and opening ourselves to the new. And that's really what each moment is. You enter this now moment. You've never been here before, but you're here now. It has a beginning and has an end. You say, now I'm here. Well, that was then, just a couple of seconds ago. It's like you can't hang on to that, but you can be in it. You can live in it. And in many ways, that's impractical because it's a beautiful spiritual idea, and it's an absolute truth. There's only eternity. There's only the now moment. To gain eternal life is to be able to live in the freedom of this now moment. Not to live with the baggage of the past or fear of the future, but to be here. And so we think about things like this, and probably traditionally most of us kind of dwell on what the previous year contained, what we went through, the changes that occurred, and the ups and downs and all of that, and then thinking of the new year as the slate's clean. You know, we can make it whatever we want, and this is true. Well, it's true to an extent. You'll have unexpected things happen that will change the course of your life. A couple of days ago, I was at Connected Lakes, one of our state parks here, and photographing birds. I've been doing that lately, and I just really love doing it. I got a 600 millimeter lens on my Canon camera, so you can get some really nice photographs from a distance. And so I was walking and I missed the turn back to my car. And I realized that after a while. I was pretty tired by then because the camera weighs about 6 pounds, I guess, and you carry that around for a couple of miles and it gets a little heavy. So I was a little distraught by that, and I think, well, I made a mistake here. But I came around the end of the lake, and sitting on the lake under some underbrush was a couple of wood ducks. You ever seen a wood duck? They're like a living painting. You know, if you had never seen one, even a picture one, you would not think anything that beautiful would exist in nature. But there they were, and if I had not made a little mistake in my journey, I would not have seen them. And I got a picture that looks like a painting of these male and female. The males are the ones that are really colorful, but the females are pretty too. And then a few steps later, I was approached by a man who could hardly speak English. He was frantic. He had lost his cell phone, that he just had gotten. And so I helped him find his cell phone. And I helped him he gave me his number, and I called his number from my cell phone, and it was the wrong number. And I got somebody calling. I said, "Did you find a phone?" He said, "Who is this?" And he hung up on me. Well, the guy couldn't remember his number. He could barely speak English. So we couldn't call his phone. So we tried to retrace the steps that he'd taken and find his phone. Well, he started kind of feeling around in his pocket, and his phone was in his pocket. So, and he opened it up, and it looked like Russian print. So I guess he was Russian. I don't know for sure, but the point of that is, if I had not made that wrong turn or not made the right turn, I wouldn't have had those two experiences. And it was comforting to him. I don't know if he's been in this country very long, but you could just tell he was really freaked out because he lost his phone. So it was comforting to him to know somebody was helping him. And if I was in his position, I would appreciate that as well. When I was learning to ski, I got stranded on it was in Vail. I was trying to ski greens, and I got off on these blues and came to this place where it looked like the hill was straight down. And I didn't know what to do because I couldn't ski. I was terrified. And I thought, well, I could sit down and get off this. I had to swallow all of my ego to even think that. But this elderly gentleman came by, and he saw I was in crisis, and he helped me. He just said, "Follow me," and zigzag down that impossible hill. And I'll never forget that. Just how much that meant to me to have somebody in my moment of terror show up and help me. So it's a good thing to remember. And sometimes you are diverted. Sometimes you're taken to a different place. I think that gentleman that was part of his job, part of his assignment as a volunteer, to go out and look for people like me to help them down the mountain. But the point that I'm making here is that when we get off, when something doesn't seem like it's right, when we're in something that doesn't seem like it's working, it doesn't mean that it's not working. It doesn't mean that we're in the wrong place. It doesn't mean there's not something there that will be a benefit to us in some way, or that we will be a benefit to somebody else, that will be there for a reason. And it feels good. It feels good to be able to help somebody in their time of need like that. It's a small thing, but again, it wasn't a small thing to him. And he felt like a real fool because his phone was in his pocket. But I've done that. I have done that very same thing. So I think probably most of us have. We were working over here at church one time, and I lost my phone. Somebody called my number, and it was in a bucket of dirt. So, you just never know where they're going to end up. So he was justified in his his angst over that. But if you feel like you are in some situation that's not right, things just don't feel right, you're saying to yourself, I want to be there and I'm here. I want to be somewhere else. I'm here. And I want to get out of here. I want to be away from here. I think the secret of handling that is just say, no, I'm here and this is okay. And I take the next step and I take the next step and I just keep going, looking for that blessing that is there, either for me or me for someone else. And it's like it puts you in a whole different mindset when you think you've done something wrong and then you say, no, I haven't done something wrong. I've done something right. I just don't know what it is yet. But it's something better is something important, something good is unfolding. Another time I was just driving down one of the streets here, and I saw a man with a wheelchair, but he was standing up, just kind of struggling with the wheelchair. And I drove past, not thinking much about it, but then something said, go back and see what's wrong. And sure enough, his wheelchair the battery had died. And he was out as far as he was concerned, in the middle of no place. Nobody out there to help him. And because he couldn't walk, but he was trying to. And it was like just something in, a little voice in my head said, go back and see what's up. So I ended up taking him to his home to get another wheelchair and with a good battery, and he drove that back to the dead one, and I had to sit in that one and steer it while he pulled me with his other wheelchair. And I was glad nobody I knew drove by at the moment, but you just never know. That's an experience that I was not expecting to have on the way to the office that day. But he was very grateful, just that somebody showed up and stopped. So that we're not always, when we think we're on the wrong path, we're not always on the wrong path. It's just not the path we're expecting. And so if you probably look back at this year, you'll find that things happen like that you weren't expecting, but some greater good came out of it. So falling apart or falling together, there are times when things seem to be falling apart and other times when they fall in place. And we're asked, given the question, which will it be? That's the question that's always posed to us. What am I going to do with this? This thing is happening. I wasn't expecting it. So what do I do with it? Am I going to be miserable because my plans were destroyed, or am I going to open myself to the possibility of something else? That maybe I am in the right place at the right time for someone else. Maybe it's not for me. But when you help someone else, it is for you, because it feels like you've done something right. You've done something good. You've stopped thinking about your life and your problem, and you've jumped in and helped somebody else. And that's a good thing. It's something, I remember those things, and it's something you never forget. So life holds things for us even when it looks like our cup is half empty. And that's what it's up to us to make that decision. If you're optimistic and full of expectation, you'll see things falling together. That is when you've taken a wrong turn or something's happened. If you're feeling weak and vulnerable, beat by circumstances, it'll feel like things are falling apart. Have you ever said to yourself, or had one of those days where you wake up, seems like a normal day, then the car won't start, or some weird thing goes on, and you get that resolved somehow, and then you go back out and your tires are flat or something. 5 or 6 things seem like they break that day. It seems like when it rains, it pours kind of thing. We've all had those days, and it just seems like it'd been better to just stay in bed, not get up. And of course, if you stay in bed, it'll all be waiting for you the next day. So, just jump into it. And it's sometimes difficult to remain optimistic when things seem to be falling apart. But I have found that we can do that. And if you're in a situation now that is troubling to you, it could be a health situation, it could be a relationship situation. Probably every one of us have things that we could think about that we would like to, and maybe we're trying to change at this moment. Can you stop and say that, okay, maybe I don't want to be here, but I am here. And I'm here for a reason. There's some good here. There's some good in this situation. You all know Fred Pierce here had a liver transplant not too long ago. And I know he went through some horrible times prior to that. Just the life he was living, his health was horrible up to that point. And I said to him on a day that he was extremely discouraged, I don't think he'll mind my sharing this, I hope he doesn't, that you may be a teacher for somebody. You know, once you go through this whole thing, you may be a teacher for somebody because you've been through this and you know what it's like. And once you get through it, once you get on the other side of this whole thing, you're going to encounter other people, because we tend to do that. Whatever we go through, we recognize other people that are going through it as well. And you can tell them what they can expect. You can tell them the miserable days you had, the fight that you had, the problems you had. And so he did go through it. He went through it. And he is in very good shape now, but he has encountered a number of people that are exactly where he was. And it's you just never know. And I'm not saying that we suffer for others in that regard, in that sense, that it's a thing that we have to do. But if you're in your life now and you're saying, I don't like where I am, I shouldn't be here, start turning that around. Start having a different conversation. That I don't know why I'm here. I don't know why this is like it is, but it is what it is. It is like it is. It is this. And it's this for a reason. There's some reason that I'm here. And it opens your mind to a whole new way of thinking of this. And you can actually get over your resistance to the problem just within a matter of seconds, if you hold that idea. Because again, it's like looking in the mirror and seeing that ageless soul, the one that's doing the looking, and the body that's changing. You're going to go through a lot of changes. You're going to see a lot of changes all your life, some up, some down. But the soul is untouched by it all. The soul remains whole. When we are suffering, we're relating more to the body than to the soul, and we're not a body. We have a body. That's one of the greatest values of the whole spiritual thing. Why are we doing this? Why are we learning this stuff? Why are we even talking about it if there's not some practical value in it? And the practical value is, I'm not my body. This too shall pass. Whatever the body's going through will pass. And I will be fine. And the soul is always fine. So it opens, it's like you look down at the ground. It's like when I'm photographing birds, you can't just look down, you can't just look up, you got to look all over the place. Because sometimes there'll be a hawk up in the top of a tree, sometimes a nuthatch will be crawling down the side of it. I saw this bird flying by. I thought it was a hawk. So I got some good photos of him flying. Turns out it was an eagle. It was a bald eagle. It was apparently an adolescent, because his head was barely white, but it was definitely an eagle. So that was a nice surprise. But it's like life happens like that all the time. Things fly by and we don't really know we don't pay much attention to them. And that's what I love about doing this is, you see something move in the bushes. and you take a picture of it and take it home, and it's like this beautiful treasure. You wouldn't not have seen that before. So photography that's a good thing it does. It tunes you into your environment, and it makes you get out there and specifically do that. And so it's a very rewarding thing to do. I'm really enjoying it. The conditions of your life need not determine how you feel. And this is probably one of the most challenging things that kinds of statements I could make as a minister, as a person, because it is so easy when things are not going well to say, they're not going well, so I don't feel well. To have an experience that is equal to that condition, as I'm interpreting it at that moment. But if you determine how you feel, conditions will take care of themselves. So you say, okay, my car is not doing so well at this moment. Does that mean I have to feel bad? Does that mean I have to feel down or depressed, or my body is not doing so well? We all have aches and pains. We all have things that are going on, some more serious than others. So I'm here. I have this thing. What do I do with it? Do I let it ruin my day? Do I let it ruin my whole attitude? Or do I say, okay, I have this thing, but I'm still going to live my life. I'm still going to go out and photograph birds. I encountered a man when I was out there, and I've been out there several times, but it was kind of a day like yesterday. It was kind of gray and kind of bleak, and he said, you won't see much today. Well, I got 3 of the best photos of birds I've gotten that day, and 3 is not very many, so I didn't see much, but I saw a lot. And that's kind of how life is. It's like you look at it on the surface and it doesn't look like it's going to give you too much. But when you get home and develop it, it looks pretty good. It's just there's a lot of lessons we can learn from whatever we're doing. Anytime we are declaring our life is not working, or we declare something's bad about it, we can turn that around by saying, okay, it's not working so well, but that's what's happening now. That's my life. That's what's going on. Do I have to stop working? Do I have to stop being what I am? Am I a lesser person because that thing isn't working? And if I think that, if I embrace that, then I'll be depressed. I'll have a bad day. But we all know the cliche, there's no such thing as a bad day. It's just a day. There's bad outlooks, bad attitudes. And we all know those quite well. And what I'm saying here is not easy to do, because we're so used to being governed by externals. It's so easy to be in a relationship maybe that's not working so well, and so we just feel we're drugged down by it. Our life is not whole. We're not happy because of it. We may be in a job we don't particularly like. We may be in a situation we don't really want to be in. It's like an illustration I've given a number of times. If you're walking through the desert and you fall in a hole, you can go through all kinds of things. You can say, why did I do that? What did I do to bring this on? Why did somebody dig a hole in my path? Or you can say, what do I do to get out of this hole? How do I employ my whole being to get out of this hole? To make this an experience I'll never forget? How do I do that? What's the first step I should take? Because there's always a way out of the hole. There's always a way out. It may not be the way that we want or expect, but let's stop saying that. Here's how it's got to work out. Not necessarily. How many holes have you been in your life? I've lost count of the holes I've been in my life. Mental, emotional, and physical. Situations I thought would never change, never go away, never end. Situations I thought if they never ended, then I'll never be happy. There's been a lot of them. But I am very thankful that I found this type of thought. I found this type of thinking that says my spirit is never damaged. There's nothing wrong with it, ever. If I'm sad, if I'm saddened by what's going on, that's a choice that I'm making. Am I obligated to make that choice? No. And I used to think I was. The world is taught, if your external world is not in good shape, then you must not be in good shape either. Your attitude and so on. But if you can look at that same situation and say, okay, here I am. I'm in my life. This is my life. What am I going to do about it? And you won't dig yourself out of a hole with a negative attitude. You won't get out of that hole by saying, how'd I get here? Must be something my parents did. Siblings. Must be because I don't have enough money. Or I don't have a degree, or I don't have whatever. I never met the right person. Something's lacking, my other half. So I'm in this hole and I don't have much to say about it. I just have to say that's part of the way my life is. So what if you say, okay, that is the way your life is right now, but it's not who you are. And you're able to start making choices that'll take you out of it. One of the worst things we do is resist, and that's what Jesus was talking about. I think not necessarily toward people, although that can work as well. But to resist evil is to resist yourself, is to say, I shouldn't be here, even though you are. That's a resistance that is not creative. It shuts off your imagination, shuts off your creative ability. I'm here and I shouldn't be. So there's an energy there, a resistance, that actually makes the hole deeper, makes the situation more difficult. So I'm here, what do I do with it? What do I do next? What's the next step? What is there for me to learn? During a low moment, an encouraging word from a book or from a person can suddenly inspire you to a new way of seeing. A problem that looks unsolvable one moment can suddenly look very different the next. And that's an important thing to remember, that the power of words. Let there be light. When the world looks like chaos, let there be light. We say that. And there was light. If we don't say it, let there be order. Let there be an opening. Let there be a way through this. Let there be the understanding of who I can help or what I can do. Let there be something more than I'm seeing. Because if we don't speak such words, but what I'm saying here is, you pick up you're in a down state and you pick up a book and you read a sentence that jumps out at you and it changes your whole outlook. What is that? Your circumstances don't change, but something in you does. That's a very powerful thing to remember. That whatever that book has stirred in you, that's what it's done. It's stirred something that's already in you. It hasn't created it. It's just awakened it. So that's very important. That's why words are important, and positive words are important. Words that speak the truth of who and what you are, who and what I am. So you're in a situation you don't like, you begin to speak words of truth. I am a free, unlimited being. There is a way through this, and I see it. I know it. I know why I'm here. I'm here to help somebody. I'm here to help myself in a deeper, strengthening way. There's some greater good in this situation. If I stop declaring it bad, Stop declaring it as something I don't want, something I must escape, get away from. Refuse to set your course by these brief seasons of low visioning. Always remember that in the twinkling of an eye, everything can change because you allow yourself to change the way you see. There are two examples of people I have encountered in my life they kind of stand out. One person was an insurance salesman. He was a member of the $1 Million Round Table, very, very successful. But he was terrified of failing. And he lived with that fear of failure. And he would say often, he would talk about being in the soup line, or he'd talk about being, losing everything, how easy it would be to lose everything. He could not seem to make enough money to find peace. So the reason for that is peace is not in money. It's in you. He was running from the poverty that he had experienced in his early years. He grew up in just absolute poverty. And he was always afraid it was going to come back. He was going to lose. He just wasn't good enough to be prosperous, or he wasn't whatever. But so his success was, he was always running. The other case was a woman who, as a child, experienced illness all the time, nearly died as childhood. And for many years lived with that. And as she grew older, she discovered unity and discovered affirmations. And I was at her house one time, and she had affirmations, short statements printed, covering her refrigerator, covering her kitchen, bathroom mirror. Every place she looked, there was affirmations pasted someplace so she could be safe from illness. And she was running from illness. She never had resolved that. And so an affirmation like that can work exactly the opposite of what you think it is. You're affirming health to try to keep that evil disease away. Or you're affirming prosperity to keep that evil poverty at the door. We need to watch that. And part of it's just awareness. Why am I afraid? What am I running from? What is it that is scaring me at this moment? Your denials and affirmations have to focus on that. Not on getting something so you'll be safe, but on finding safety in yourself. Denial is a releasing of the fear, and affirmation is a taking on of what is true of you. And it's something that, exactly, when we're afraid, when we're in a situation where we feel fear, it's probably not related to the thing that we say we're afraid of. It's probably something deeper. Like my insurance friend would say, well, I'm afraid I'm not going to make the same amount of money I made last year. Well, that's not it. I'm afraid I'm going to end up in a soup line because as a child, we barely ate. So if you want to resolve that problem, do you try to make more money so you can feel better, or do you try to resolve the childhood issue? That's what we all need to look at. That's where the spiritual thing really comes in. It's not the surface so much. And that's what we see so often in New Thought and Unity and all these positive thinking things, is we affirm for that Maserati or whatever. We want some great wealth. Well, the greatest wealth we could possibly hope for is to overcome our fears. Because when you have overcome a fear, it won't matter what the condition is. You'll be okay. That's what we want. And what's interesting about that is you overcome the fear, then you'll tend to draw to you that thing that you wanted. But we don't draw it to us by visualizing something. You know, the insurance salesman visualized making a lot of money and did. But that didn't solve the problem, what the person's running from. Same with the health issue. Each new moment is a potential new beginning. It doesn't matter how negative you've been even one moment ago. You can start now to set new energy in motion. And I think that's a lot of the reason we don't start often is we know it's difficult. And we know we're not going to last. You know, you start out on a positive thinking quest, and that goes for 5 minutes, and something comes up and you have a negative reaction, so you think, well, what's the use? I can't do it. It's too hard. So even if a moment ago you were terrorized by something, you can feel more strength than you've ever had in the next moment. And you can look at the thing you were afraid of from a whole different perspective. You have that power in you. All of us do. None of us are victims. We're victims of our own thinking, our own feelings. Refuse to be a victim of circumstance or personality. In those moments when you slip back into a negative mode, remember that life is dynamic, that there is every reason to hold to even the tiniest glimmer of hope, declaring that the good you desire is now coming forth. It could be the good you desire or good that you haven't even thought of. But greater good is unfolding in your life right now. Just hold that thought. Take the wrong turn, you're going to run into somebody that needs your help. You're going to get a cool photograph. Something that you weren't expecting will happen. Okay? If we live each day of this coming year with that attitude, it'll be the best year we've ever had. Next week, I want to start a series on independent unity. You know, we changed our name a couple weeks ago, and we broke away from our headquarters in Kansas City. We are truly independent unity now, so I'm going to start a series of talks on what that means, what the name means, the concept, who we are, and where we're going to go. All right. Thank you for coming out, and have a Happy New Year.
You've been watching a talk presented at the Unity Church of Grand Junction by Reverend Doug Bator. We would like to thank everyone who joined us here today in beautiful Grand Junction, Colorado, as well as those of you who are joining us online. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. Also, please feel free to share this video with anyone you think might be interested or benefit from this message. If this video brought value to your life, please consider making a donation by clicking the link below to our PayPal donation account. Thanks again so much for watching.